Okie doke. Welcome back. If you're watching this one, then you definitely know what's going on with this series, so I don't need to do the introduction again. But if you don't know, then this link will be in the description. But today we're going to do part 4, which is pretty quick, and then right into part 5, so a little 2 for 1. And I think this will totally cover all of the fundamentals that we need pretty much to actually start finishing this AI clone sort of thing, which is great. So let's just get right into part 4. Okay, so up until now, in the other parts, we've only seen code that just gets executed line by line and top to bottom, right? So bam, 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 bam. Like it always just goes top to bottom like that. And that is great, but sometimes it gets pretty annoying to have to just like copy and paste code. Like say if I wanted to make a list of names, right? But I wanted to change the names, I would have to like make another one, do like names 2 or something, and then go and edit all of these names. And that's not even a great example. But say you wanted to reuse a lot of this code, like how could you do that without having to copy and paste? And well, that is called a function. And so you've already used a little bit of functions when you're working with strings and lists. So you've seen a function before, but it is a little bit of a new way of typing things, a new syntax. Um, but it shouldn't be too complicated. The 3 things you have to sort of remember, maybe 4, is you just have this keyword called def, which is for like I'm defining a function, and then that is called say hi. So this is the name that I gave. And then you have these 2 parentheses, which sort of like defines, tells everybody it's a function. And then you have this colon to say will be the start of the definition. And then under this definition, you have to indent. And you'll see, I think we'll write some more functions. So don't memorize it, just getting a sense for the syntax here. And so inside the function definition, then we write the code that we otherwise would have had to copy and paste. And so here it's just a printing hello. And so we'll say hello. There we go. And great. So why don't we just define another function right now together? So write the keyword def, and then I want to just give my function a name that people reading my code can understand. So we'll say I want to make this a little different than the other one. Why don't we do actually? Okay, just quickly, we'll do like say what's up. And then you need the parentheses, and then you need the colon. And then after that, we need to write a code that we want to do. So what's up? Okay, so, and then here is where you actually use your function. So if I run this code, then I've defined the function. I've told what will happen when I want to use the function. But then below, I actually have to explicitly, it's called calling your function, and you do it like this. So then that actually runs the code within the function definition. Okay, amazing. So here's another example, but this time we're actually putting something within those parentheses. And these are called parameters, but what they really are just inputs to the function. So same thing as a function in math, you have an input and then you have an output. So the input like kind of just defines 2 variables or placeholders for when you actually run the function. And then return is defining what the output of the function will be. So I want to output x plus y, and that makes sense because this is an add function. Oh, I haven't defined. So if you haven't defined the function, then it will fail because you haven't actually told it what add means. So after we do that, then we get 7, which makes a lot of sense. So there is a few things to remember when you're writing functions that are just, new syntax or new ways of typing things. But once you see it enough, it'll sort of become second nature to you. So don't feel like you have to memorize it right now. Just use these examples as reference. So again, we have another example of multiply. And so we have the inputs of two numbers, x and y, and then we want to output x times y. And so anything you put on this return line is what the function outputs. Okay, so maybe a little challenge here. Write a function that takes an input called name and then returns output to that string, all uppercase. Okay, so maybe do this with me and then do the next one on your own. So again, we're just trying to memorize all of this syntax. So def and then the name of the function. So we'll say make uppercase. And then it takes in an input called name. And remember that colon there. And then we want to return. And so what do we want to output from this function? Well, it's going to output name in all uppercase. So it can be hard to translate a prompt like this to the code in your brain, especially in the first few tries, and that's totally okay. You just have to remember, the more and more you see it, it'll get a lot easier. Okay, so after we do that, then it's not going to do anything, right? If you remember before. So if we want to actually use the function and test if it works, then you do make uppercase, and then put in a string of banana. Nice. Amazing. Okay. All right. So onto this little challenge that I made. Okay, write a function. So immediately I should know I have to do def, and then I'll give it a name. That takes in two inputs. So I'll give it a name of do calculation. So it says take in two inputs, x and y. So I know if I have two inputs, then here's x, and then if I have a second input, I do a comma, and then the second input. If I had a third input, I do a comma, and then maybe z or comma, and hello. Like, you can name these anything that you want, and it's valid. But in the prompt, it's telling me I want x and y. So I have x and I have y. We put that colon there, and then we return using the indent so that everything indented this way after you define something is within the function. But if you were to type like this, Python would think you're defining a function and then you're doing something after this function block. Right? So it would be thinking like there's just nothing here, right? So if I did print like this, this is defining the function with Josh as the code within it, but then it's just saying, oh, after you say what is in do calculation, I'm just going to print that anyways. So make sure your stuff is indented if you want to put code inside of functions. Okie doke. Okay, so returns. Oh, okay. So here we could just do this, and that's great. That is returning a calculation, and that will work. But what if, we've already defined add and multiply. So why don't we try and reuse the code that we've already built? And it's not too hard, right? So we've already seen this sort of function calling thing, or using a function that we've defined. So you can just replace that code, and this is sort of the point. You're not having redundant code, and you're not copying and pasting code. So we can do add of x, and we pass in the values of x and y, or you put those in as inputs, and then we do the same thing for multiply x and y. Great. And so this will totally work. And so now, a part of the reason this is challenge is because you can actually do one more thing. And I wouldn't say this is better in any way, but it is just challenging to see that you can do this. I don't think this is, if you were to write this code, I don't think this would be the best way to do it. But just so that you can see that you can do it, we're going to put add as an input to like that. So add is an input to this multiply function, and so is multiply. And so mess around with that for a second and make sure that makes sense, because that is a little tricky. But if you understand this, then you understand what a function is and how inputs and outputs work of functions, which is definitely pretty important. And great. After that, you have done part 4. All right, this is already 10 minutes, so we'll do part 5 next time. It is important to take the time to make sure you understand functions in Python. So I'll see you in the next one as we get very much closer and closer. Now we can, if you start to look at here, you'll start to see, this is a function, of course, this is a function, so we are making our way for sure. Loop. Oh wait, that's the next one. All right, great, so a little teaser. Okay, bye.